Hello Sydneys, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris. I just got done watching the latest Scream movie that, you know what, being a fan of this franchise, I'm just gonna call it Scream 5. And with Scream 5, good old 5 cream, we follow our brand new lead, played by Melissa Barrera. In this new reboot sequel for the franchise, we will find her and her sister being stalked by Ghostface for mysterious reasons, pulling Sydney, Dewey, Gale all together to figure out who is behind the mask. That's all pretty much it without giving any spoilers to you guys. This will be a spoiler-free review. I won't give away any major details about the movie. I firmly believe to enjoy a Scream movie for the first time, you should go in completely blank. So I'm gonna do my best to be as vague as possible for you guys in this movie, but at the same time, I also want to give you a little something. Cinemark, who is sponsoring this video, went ahead and gave me a Scream mask, and well, I think I got plenty, so I'm gonna give this one away. But you guys know here, Cinemark is my preferred theater, and I would not have been able to watch this movie early without them providing me a private screening of the film. And to make things even more special for Scream fans, they are holding fan screenings January 13th, the day I'm posting this video, where if you buy tickets for that specific screening, not only will you get to enjoy the movie surrounded by other fans of the franchise, but you will get a live Q&A with the filmmakers of Scream and Dewey Riley, David Arquette. But if that's not something you're able to do, I'll leave a link in the description so you could buy tickets for Scream at a time that works best for you. And again, if you want this Cinemark mask they provide to me, just like, subscribe, and let me know. Alright, now finally diving into my spoiler-free thoughts with Scream 5, I had been anticipating this movie for the longest. The first Scream, as cliche as it is, I do consider it to be one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and I also think the Ghostface franchise with Scream 1 through 4 has remained the most consistent in terms of quality and keeping up with the fans, giving you a story that's interconnected. So when I heard they kind of wanted to go ahead and do the whole reboot sequel treatment that is popular with horror movies today, I was pretty skeptical because Wes Craven was no longer with us, but having the attachment of the Ready or Not filmmakers, Radio Silence, Matt Opla, and Tyler Gillette, I was like, you know what? That horror movie was one of my favorites of that year. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. And man, do they freaking nail it with this movie. This new Scream movie manages to capture everything I love about the franchise and packs it into one movie that both honors the legacy that Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson made, while at the same time pushing forward and attempting to do something of their very own that I think they do succeed in. The kills in this movie are brutal, violent, and some of the goriest ones we've seen in the franchise. After Scream 4, I felt like what else could you do with the Scream franchise in terms of commentating on horror? Not a lot has changed, at least in my opinion. Sure, you have like what this movie is, the reboot sequel, but even then I feel that's still in the territory of reboots and remakes. But the themes and elements they explore in Scream 5 in terms of horror, even talking about elevated horror movies like some A24 kind of films like Hereditary or It Follows, get a bit of a mention in here, and it all really works to be like, damn, there is still something to be said with this movie. Not just that, but the ensemble cast that was thrown in here is some of the best casting that we've had in a Scream movie in a long time. Sure, there are some characters in here that don't get to do much and are just there for a body count, but some standouts to me that I enjoyed watching on screen were people like Jack Quaid, who added his little quips here and there, giving us some humor to the film that is very well balanced throughout. Sometimes a Scream movie can go a little overboard with the jokes and get a little too silly with their meta humor, but here I do think they found a good balance of being able to scare you, thrill you, put you in that dark moment, and then throw a joke here and there to kind of remind you, hey, we're having fun, we like horror movies. Jasmine Brown was also one I wasn't expecting to like as much as I did. She at one point in this movie early on has a monologue where she's kind of basically explaining what horror movies mean to some people, and I just thought, man, this girl is on point. Everything she's saying right now is kind of how I feel about horror movies, and just the knowledge her character has about not only the Scream world, but horror movies in general, made her out to be a very intriguing character. And on the subject of the legacy characters returning, Neve Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox, they are used very sparingly in the movie, where you will be feeling their absence, and fans who are hoping that they have a large presence in this film, I would say maybe tame your expectations on that. But of the three, I do have to say David Arquette really brought it in this movie as this weathered down retired cop who's just tired of Ghostface always popping up. After the character of Randy Meeks, Dewey became my favorite character of the franchise, and it's just cool that he got some really nice MVP moments. Now, when it comes to the story of the movie, this is where I want to talk a little bit more about why I'm still calling this movie Scream 5. Let me be honest with you guys, even though they wanted to do the thing where they just call it Scream so they can trick a few people to buying tickets for this movie thinking they don't have to watch any previous Scream movie before this one, they might be making a bit of a mistake here. This movie, for all intents and purposes, purposes is Scream 5, whether they wanted to put that number there or not. It's marketing. I understand why they did it, but let me tell you, you're gonna want to watch at least the first movie and the fourth movie. 2 and 3 definitely get their mention throughout the film, but those are really just little icing Easter eggs, fun little things for you to catch in the background, because there's tons of great little references and Easter eggs to the Scream franchise. But for you to get the full experience and enjoy the new Scream movie, you are gonna want to have some background knowledge on at least that first film for sure. And that's where, as a fan of this franchise, I really have to pat them on the back for going ahead and just taking that much love and dedication for the past of the series, where they still keep all the continuity intact. They're not really ignoring anything. And that is one of the new themes they touch upon here, is the fan perception of these movies and what they mean to them. And the way they play that out and handle it into the movie, I just thought was so smart. You could really tell everyone involved with this new Scream movie are fans of everything that came before, and it's embraced here on screen. They treat a lot of the traditions that come with the Scream movie with such respect, and even being able to break the fourth wall with things where I was like, oh, I see what you did here. That's actually really clever, man. Good on you. The cinematography of the movie also was just beautifully done. Thank goodness they didn't come back with that Scream 4 smudgy brightness look. This fan of the franchise feels extremely satisfied with what was provided to us, but also I want to be honest and say one of the reasons that I feel this movie works so well is because of the risks they take. Kind of leading me into some of my negatives for this movie. It's not completely perfect. It's not the outstanding 10 out of 10 movie. I have my own minor issues with the film, some that I'll definitely talk about in my spoiler review, but I can definitely see there's going to be people that are not going to be fans of the third act and the overall real theme that Scream 5 is about. And in a weird way, them being mad about it is why this movie is kind of so brilliant. I thought the third act was bonkers crazy and had me on the edge of my seat the entire time, but I think it really was more the motive behind it, where I was like, damn, for a long time we would say Scream 4 was like ahead of its time with its motive. With Scream 5, you're not necessarily going to feel that way. It feels very relevant with the movie community, but it's one that I'm not sure we're ready to talk about and have it be thrown at our face, where I was like, yo, good on you, Scream, for tackling it. And I think for the most part, they do nail that. So with that said, some of the things they don't do so well in here is sometimes the meta humor or the fourth wall breaking, where it's this movie within a movie. That's something that's always been apparent with the Scream franchise, even going back to the first or second film, where like Randy would be talking about, okay, we're in a sequel right now, so what are the rules for a sequel? What are the rules for a trilogy? I did feel like maybe at times in this film they took it a little too far with trying to go ahead and break the fourth wall, mention jokes that only the audience would be thinking about. For the most part, it did work for me, but there are moments where I'm like, okay, now you're kind of forcing it and it doesn't feel as natural as it did in maybe some of the other installments. There was also a bit of a pacing issue, specifically in the first half of the movie, where it feels like things are taking a while to get rolling and going. It's about the same runtime as every other Scream movie, 2 hours, but I think a large part of that had to do with, since we're not following the legacy characters as much, subconsciously in my mind I was like, man, when are they going to show Sydney? When are they going to show Gale? When is Dewey coming in? And I guess that just made me start feeling the length in this movie at times. But again, those are just minor nitpicks. Those are things I can easily overlook. I still think they freaking nailed it with this movie. They managed to capture the magic of a Scream movie, update it for the modern age. I think Wes Craven would have really liked this movie and enjoyed what these directors have done with it. And at the end of the day, I think that's just what matters. Honoring the legacy that came before and celebrating, hoping there might be more. I would love to see more. So for Scream 5, I'm going to give action 3 stars here. I don't really know if you would consider those action sequences, but when Ghostface is going after victims, they provide a couple of unique and interesting takes that I feel does make it fun and refreshing. Comedy in the movie, I'm also going to give it 3 stars. I felt like there was a well balance of humor in this film where it didn't completely go overboard, but you will for sure be entertained. More if you're someone really connected to the movie space nowadays. A lot of great inside jokes in there for you. Drama in the film, I'm going to give it 4 stars. I really like the story they were telling here, the way they were able to piece together the legacy characters, having them involved in some way while still making sure the movie stands on its own 2 feet, provide you a third act that is pretty bonkers. Not just that, but also going ahead and expanding the lore behind Scream a little more. Horror in the film, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I think this is the scariest Ghostface has been in a long time, specifically in that opening sequence that I thought was done really well. Roger L. Jackson and the use of his voice, man, did they give him some great lines and full use of his voice that provide for some really great tense moments. Also, kills, brutal, gory, bloody, and suspense. The movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. While it was a rather slow pacing towards the beginning, after that opening sequence. Once the legacy characters come in and that third act starts unfolding, man, I was just on the edge of my seat waiting to see what would happen, who would survive, who wouldn't. They really play up the whodunit element in this movie well. Casual fans to the franchise, I am gonna give it a B-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it an A-. And critically, I'm going to give it a B+. For Scream 5, this is one you should own and add to your collection at home.
That's a keeper.
Really, 5 movies into this franchise, and we still have a good sequel that came out of it. What more could you ask for as a fan of Ghostface? I really hope somehow they can continue this world, because I'd love to see what else this creative team has to offer. But if this happens to be the end of it, oh well, we got 5 great freaking movies. Let me know what you guys thought of the new Scream movie. Does it live up to your expectations? Did you have a good time? Save all your spoiler thoughts for when I post my spoiler review later this weekend. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.